The craftful warriors considered themselves the apex predators of the Orion arm. Their exoskeletal bodies were engineered over generations for combat, with redundant organs and natural armor that could deflect most small arms fire. They had conquered 17 worlds, subjugated dozens of species, and earned the title the Nightmare Legion across 3 sectors of space. None of that mattered now, as Commander Threkvel watched the human move across the ice field with casual indifference to conditions that had already killed 2 of his elite soldiers. "Impossible," he whispered, his mandibles clicking nervously as the thermal imaging showed the human's heat signature, steady and strong despite the howling blizzard and temperatures that had frozen the methane regulators in their combat suits. 6 hours earlier, their strike team had shot down the human transport vessel over this frozen wasteland on the planet the locals called Earth. The mission was simple: capture the human diplomatic team for leverage in the ongoing negotiations. It should have been easy, especially on this ice-covered death trap where no sentient being could survive unprotected. But the humans hadn't died in the crash. Instead, they'd scattered, and now Threkvel's team was hunting them across this frozen hell while their own life support systems failed one by one. "Sir, the human appears to be setting up shelter," Second Lieutenant Kral reported with disbelief, adjusting the magnification on their observation equipment. The human had stopped moving and was now digging into the snow with practiced efficiency. In mere minutes, the bipedal creature had carved out a shallow depression and was now cutting blocks from the compacted snow with a simple tool pulled from its pack. "What is it doing?" asked Threkvel, genuinely puzzled. His species had never evolved to handle extreme cold. Their homeworld enjoyed perpetual summer. Cold weather operations required complex thermal regulation systems, yet this soft-skinned mammal was handling blocks of frozen water with its bare appendages. "It appears to be building some kind of structure," Kral replied, equally baffled. Within 30 minutes, the human had erected a domed shelter from blocks of snow. The warrior team watched in stunned silence as the human crawled inside, pulling a reflective sheet across the entrance. "Sensor readings indicate the temperature inside that primitive structure is rising," the technician reported. "It's approaching levels sustainable for carbon-based life." Threkvel's antennae flattened against his head in disbelief. They build habitats from frozen water, with no technology, no power source. "Sir," interrupted the communications specialist, "we've detected another human approaching from the north. Thermal signature suggests it's been moving for hours." On their screens, another human trudged through the snow, this one dragging what appeared to be an improvised sled loaded with supplies. This human wore even less protection than the first, just layered fabric garments with no visible power systems or environmental controls. "How are they not dead?" whispered Kral. "Our combat suits are failing after just hours in these temperatures." The second human reached the snow structure and was welcomed inside. The warriors watched in horror as the humans began melting snow in a metal container over a tiny flame, then consuming the resulting liquid. "They're drinking the frozen precipitation," Threkvel stated unnecessarily, his voice hollow. "They're using their own primitive metabolic processes to generate heat." The technician's voice trembled as he reported, "Sir, 3 more humans approaching from the east. They appear to be using domesticated animals to pull transport sleds." Indeed, the new group was riding atop sleds pulled by large, furry quadrupeds that seemed completely unbothered by the howling winds and sub-zero temperatures. Threkvel made a decision. "Recall our remaining scouts. We must retreat to the ship immediately." "But sir, the mission," protested Kral, "is a failure." Threkvel cut him off. "We've lost 2 warriors already to this environment. These humans are not just surviving here, they're thriving. They build shelters from ice, they travel efficiently across the terrain, and they do it all without the technology we depend on." As if to emphasize his point, the temperature alarms in their own shelter began blaring. Their heating systems were failing. What kind of species evolves on a world where they must develop techniques to survive in such conditions? Kral asked, genuine fear in his voice for the first time in his military career. Threkvel stared at the monitor showing the growing human encampment. More snow structures were being erected, Some humans were now cooking food over open flames. One was even removing outer layers of clothing, apparently overheating from physical exertion. A species that evolved on a death world, Threadvale replied quietly. One that forced them to adapt to conditions that would kill any rational species. One that taught them to turn deadly environments into advantages. 3 hours later, as their rescue ship broke atmosphere, Threadvale composed his report to High Command. He chose his words carefully, knowing his recommendation would be controversial. The humans must be reclassified as a class of threat species, he concluded. Their biological adaptability exceeds our projections. They have developed cultural technologies that compensate for their physical limitations. Most concerning of all, conditions we consider lethal, they consider merely challenging. He paused, then added, a species that can build homes from ice, survive Arctic conditions with primitive tools, and carry on normal operations in environments that disabled our advanced technology is not a species we should provoke. I recommend immediate withdrawal from Earth territory and reassessment of diplomatic strategy. As the report transmitted, Threadvale gazed out at the stars, wondering what other terrors humans might consider routine survival techniques, and for the first time in his life, feeling genuinely afraid of another species.